Mark Nelson of Visa, thank you very much for joining us here in studio.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Absolutely. And in a big step forward for stablecoin adoption, Visa is launching a pilot where businesses can send payments directly to the stablecoin wallets of recipients, and those include freelancers and creators. The goal to make the movement of money faster and easier. So can you take us through this pilot? How does it work exactly, and what are some of the other highlights?
Yeah, it starts with Visa Direct. So Visa Direct is our cross-border real-time money movement platform. Today, if you wanted to send money to someone, you could load your bank card into it. You could also use your bank account. But now we're adding stablecoin wallets as a way to receive money. And so if you're a business and you want to send money to your creator, for example, in the market, you can just have them load their stablecoin address and it sends the money to them immediately.
So you mentioned creators.
Yeah.
Who else is the ideal candidate for this pilot?
I mean, there's so many different ways that we would think about this. There's the creators, there's freelancers, there's gig workers. So let's say that you are working for a rideshare program, and you want to get paid daily for whatever you've done for that day. Once again, today, if you want to get paid today, you may have to wait 2 or 3 days if you use the normal banking process. But going forward, you could say to your employer, here's my stablecoin wallet address. I want to receive a portion of my payroll every day on stablecoins. And so they could then receive that in real time, instantaneously. And so it's just so incredible for them to do that. And then with content creators, as you're a content creator, you start to work with people around the world. You could also now receive a stablecoin backed, like a US dollar backed stablecoin, so you can get access to money fast, instantaneously, and then you also then can use that money to invest in your business and grow your business as well.
I love how you brought up those use cases, valuable information. And obviously right now it's a pilot.
Yes.
How long is this pilot going to last? And when do you anticipate it could potentially be available to the masses?
We are starting the pilot in the US, so US-based companies that want to send money to anyone around the world, they could do that. And then in the later half of 2026, we'll be expanding this to more countries as well. And so we encourage people who want to get into this space to contact Visa, and we'll work with them as we start to deploy this globally.
Why was it important for Visa to launch this specific pilot? Yeah. I understand you had new research come out from the Visa 2025 Creator Economy Report, which showed faster access to funds is ranked as the top reason digital content creators prefer using digital payment methods. In fact, 57% cited instant access as their leading motivation for choosing digital payment methods to get paid for content creation work. So how much of a factor was this research in your decision, and what other factors were in the mix?
It's incredibly important because it shows that real-time access to money is so important for many people. And so that is one reason, is to how do we get more optionality for people that want funds immediately. Stablecoins is a great technology that enables that. Another reason that we're really interested in this is we have for years been trying to go after the underbanked population. So people who don't have a bank account. Historically, it's been really hard for them to even participate in the digital economy. It would cost them so much money to find intermediaries to go and purchase something online. And so with stablecoin wallets, you can get a stablecoin wallet even if you don't have a bank account, and then you can start receiving money into those wallets and use and access the digital economy. So that was really important for us as well.
So generally speaking, why was it important for Visa to move deeper into the stablecoin space? Obviously, we have seen major developments on the regulatory front here in the US. The Genius Act stablecoin bill was signed into law over the summer. Yep. So how much of a factor was that in your decision to move deeper into stablecoins? And obviously, we've seen other regulatory advancements around the world. So how much of a factor is regulatory developments for Visa?
It is absolutely critical because now we have a framework by which we can start to deploy this technology with the right compliance, right tools, right security. So, and it also means the banks and the financial institutions can start to see how do they participate in this. So the regulatory framework has been really important for us. And the other reason is because our role at Visa is to introduce and combine innovation with reliability. And if you think about how we can use our payment network, which has so so much speed and reliability and resiliency, and we start to embed these emerging technologies like stablecoins, it lets us get this type of use case more broadly deployed for businesses and consumers around the world in just a much faster and compliant way.
So in September, Visa launched a pilot, a stablecoin pre-funding pilot for businesses.
Yeah.
How does that work exactly? And now that it's been over a month since its launch, how's it going? Are you noticing demand?
So pre-funding is a little bit of a strange concept. So let me just start with the basics.
Sounds good.
So let's say that you're a company and you have maybe 10 different markets around the world that you support, and you have employees in those markets. If you want to pay them, you have to pay them in local currency. So to have local currency, it means you have to have bank accounts and partners that have money in those markets. And so that's all fine and good, but let's say it's a weekend and you have drivers that want to get paid that day, and you start running out of money. And you can't move money on the weekend because the banks aren't open. And so what stablecoins allows these companies to do is position money in real time into those markets so that they can still pay out their employees. And so it really is it's addressing some of the inefficiencies that we have with global cross-border money movement.
And this is also a pilot right now, so when is this going to be available to the public potentially?
It's live now for our APIs, and so what we're doing now is working with partners to help show them how to integrate that into their processes. And so there is a lot of demand, as you can imagine, from companies around the world, because it's easier and faster treasury management. And so it's exciting because people are starting to lean into it because there is more regulatory clarity, so that's helping. And so particularly in the US, and there's other markets around the world that are starting to get that regulatory framework as well. So that will be exciting for us to watch.
And you mentioned more people are getting into it, but also more companies are getting into stablecoins. In fact, your competitor, MasterCard, is integrating stablecoins into its payments network, partnering with companies like crypto companies, I should say, like MoonPay and Circle. So what's your reaction to that? What does that signal to you? Does it show you that more companies are in fact seeing the value of stablecoins, especially as we're seeing these regulatory developments around the world for stablecoins? And how does Visa stack up against the competition?
It's a great question, and yes, I think what we will see is we will partner with many different companies around the world, and largely because you need different licenses depending on where you are. If you want to originate a stablecoin payout, you need a license, and so we will also be partnering with many different folks and just to help expand this globally as quickly as we can. So we think there's really good momentum, there's good excitement. But not to oversell this, I mean, the regulatory clarity is still pretty new. Like the Genius Act passed just a handful of months ago, and so you still have a lot of our biggest partners, our biggest financial institutions thinking, how am I going to introduce this? How am I going to incorporate this into my risk operations, for example? And so it's still kind of early days, but there's so much excitement and energy around this, so we want to be in the front of it.
And you mentioned stablecoins still in its early days. But you know, Visa has been moving forward full force in the stablecoin space and in the crypto space. Can you take us through some of the achievements for Visa in this world as where it stands right now?
Yeah, I mean, we started really back in 2020 where we started to do stablecoin-backed Visa cards. So if you have a wallet with stablecoin balance in it, you could have a Visa card attached to that balance, so you could then spend at any merchant in the world that accepts a Visa card, you could pay for it and it comes against your stablecoin balance. So we already have 130 different programs in 40 different countries using that particular technology, which is incredible. You can now really truly spend stablecoins anywhere, which most people don't even realize you can do. So that's one example. We also are having banks start to pilot and try stablecoin settlement. So if you're once again, if you're in a market around the world, today you have to maybe settle with us in US dollars. So if you're in Kenya and you're a bank and you owe Visa some money for settlement, you have to settle with us in US dollars today. But it's hard sometimes to get enough currency locally, so now you could use stablecoins as a way to settle with us.
During Visa's fourth quarter earnings call last month, your CEO said that Visa is adding support for 4 stablecoins running on 4 unique blockchains, representing 2 currencies that Visa can accept and convert to more than 25 traditional fiat currencies. Obviously, Visa is bullish on stablecoins. This is a clear example. What's your reaction to that? What does that signal to you?
I think it does signal that we're not going to just back any one currency. We're just going to go wherever there's demand. And so how many currencies end up being used, no one really knows yet. That's probably the biggest question people ask us, like, what is the currency that we're going to support? And there's just going to be multiple. And we're going to try to support as many as we can as long as there's demand and interest from our clients.
And your CEO also noted that since 2020, Visa has facilitated over $140 billion in crypto and stablecoin flows.
Yep.
He also pointed out during that fourth quarter earnings call that Visa now has more than 130 stablecoin linked card issuing programs in over 40 countries. Yep. You touched on some of the examples here today. So what else can people expect from Visa on the stablecoin front in the near future? Any more partnerships, announcements? You touched on some of that today, but anything else you'd like to add?
I think just more of the same. I think what we'll start to see is just more banks getting behind it, and how do we support the banks in their programs as well. And that's really our role, is just to help continue to integrate this technology and these capabilities throughout Visa so we can get it safe and reliable and resilient so that people can deploy this at scale and be really confident that it works.
Mark Nelson with Visa, thank you very much for joining us and for your comprehensive insight into all Visa is doing in the stablecoin space and the crypto space at large.
Thank you for having me. It's great.
Absolutely.